I have a new girlfriend, and I'm going to live with her now, so I'm divorcing you. You'll need to go back to your parents. I don't need you anymore. If you want to be the breadwinner or a housekeeper, you can stay with my parents. Do you understand? My husband and his parents laugh at me and treat me terribly, but I'd rather leave them. My name is Lauren, and I'm a 28-year-old office worker. I've spent my whole life working. After graduating from college, I started at a big company and worked there for about 6 years. I worked hard, earned promotions, and eventually became a department manager at a young age. My boss is supportive, and my team is motivated and talented. Work-wise, I was very happy, but my personal life was unfulfilling. I had one boyfriend during college but none since I started working. Worried about me, a friend organized a dinner party where I met Jesse. He was kind, had a nice smile, and we got along well because we were the same age and had a lot in common. We soon became friends, exchanged numbers, and started going out. After a while, he confessed his feelings, and we started dating. We got along well, and eventually he proposed, and we got married. I was so happy to marry the man I loved. Soon after, I went to meet his parents. They were very kind and welcomed me warmly. Lauren, it's nice to meet you. I can't believe such a beautiful person is marrying Jesse, they said. They were so proud of their son. Hey, Mom and Dad, stop it. You're scaring Lauren, Jesse said. Oh my, if you really think so, it's okay to say it. It's a compliment, they replied. His parents were friendly and easy to talk to, just like Jesse. They asked if I would quit my job after getting married. I told them I planned to keep working because I had a good job at a good company. They thought that was great. I felt relieved. My friends had told me that their mothers-in-law often pressured them to quit their jobs, saying it was a wife's duty to support her husband. So, I was glad that my future mother-in-law seemed more understanding. After meeting my husband's parents, we got married, and I was excited about starting our new life together. My husband moved into my house, and I was thrilled to be newlyweds with the man I loved. I enjoyed being with him at home and having him there when I got back from work. 5 months into our marriage, my husband brought up something he wanted to discuss. He asked if I would consider living with his parents. I was surprised and asked what he meant. He explained that his parents were getting older, and he was worried about them. I understood his concern, especially since he is an only child. My parents are the same age as his, but my brother and his wife live with them, so I don't have the same worries. I asked if his parents had a room for us, and he mentioned that they used all the rooms for different purposes. He suggested that we renovate their house to make it a 2-family home. That way, we could have our own space while still being close to his parents. It sounded like a good idea, a way to live in a nice, spacious house while keeping our privacy. I agreed, and my husband was so happy. Later, his parents visited us, and they were very grateful. Seeing how kind and cheerful they were, I thought living in the same house might not be so bad. Soon after, my husband and I started discussing the renovation, which would cost around $220,000. But as we were discussing the renovation, my husband made a surprising request. He said, "Actually, I have a favor to ask. Can you pay for the remodeling?" I was confused and asked, "What do you mean?" "The full amount." My husband looked uncomfortable and said, "Actually, we are in debt." I was shocked. Neither my husband nor his parents had mentioned anything about debt when we were dating or when we got married. I asked how much debt they had, and he told me it was around $280,000. I was expecting a smaller amount, so I was very surprised and even shouted in disbelief. My husband explained that the debt had started small but kept growing, and now they couldn't pay it off. His parents were living on a pension, and he couldn't help them as much as he wanted to, so the debt kept increasing. I was still shocked and upset by this sudden news. I had no idea my in-laws owed so much money. Then my husband asked me for another favor. Will you help me pay off my parents' debt? They can't afford it anymore, and I don't make a very good salary either. I asked him if it would be tough to renovate the house and live together as two families under these circumstances. He insisted that the renovation was still important and we should go ahead as planned. He asked me to cover both the remodeling costs and his parents' debt, which totaled $250,000. He admitted it was a lot to ask but said he wanted to take care of our life together and protect his parents because he loved both me and them. He apologized for being greedy and asked if I would help him, promising to pay me back little by little. I was very distressed. My husband and in-laws had no one else to turn to, and I knew my husband loved me. But looking back, I think I was blinded by love. Despite my doubts, I agreed to pay for it. My husband thanked me sincerely, even shaking my hand, and later told his parents. They came to our house and apologized, with my mother-in-law even shedding tears of joy. I knew I had to do my best to take over the debt. Although I had some savings, I was afraid to pay it all at once. So, I decided to use about $450,000 from my savings and then pay the rest in installments. We discussed the repayment plan with my in-laws and moved forward from there. I explained to my in-laws how I planned to make the payments in installments. They told me to do whatever I thought was best. Then my husband suggested that I transfer the money directly to the debt repayment account instead of sending it to my in-laws first. He admitted that they weren't very good at managing money and worried about handling such a large sum. My in-laws agreed, and I realized it would be more convenient to send the money directly to avoid any complications. So, I agreed to this plan. After we settled on this, my in-laws looked very relieved. They said they no longer had to fear the monthly debt collectors, which had been very stressful for them. My husband told them to thank me properly, and they expressed their gratitude many times, saying they were so glad I became their son's wife. While I was happy that my in-laws were relieved, I couldn't help but feel a bit uncomfortable. It felt like they might see me as just a source of money. But I wanted to support my husband's family, so I began making the payments. At the same time, we remodeled our house and completed the two-family home. We started living together in a beautiful, spacious house, and my in-laws were very happy. My husband was also excited about the new house. I enjoyed cooking in the new kitchen, and I was glad we had done the remodeling. The house was more convenient, and being closer to work saved me time. With the extra time, I could study more and work on paying off the debt. However, something started to bother me. My husband didn't help with paying off the debt at all, even though he had promised to help when we first talked about it. When I asked him about it, he said his salary wasn't enough to make the payments. I asked my husband how much he takes home and requested to see his pay stubs, but he refused to show me, so I still don't know how much he earns. But he should be paying off his debts. I worked hard for about a year to pay down the debt. Then one day, my in-laws asked me how much was left to pay. They figured after a year, I shouldn't have much left, maybe around $220,000 to $280,000. I told them that we had paid back about $50,000 this year, leaving around $110,000 to go. My in-laws were shocked. You paid back that much? Lauren, that's incredible. At this rate, you'll be done in about 2 years. I replied that if I kept working hard, I could pay it off, and they were so happy that they started crying. Seeing them so happy made me feel like all the hard work was worth it. However, a few days later, something unexpected happened. I had to work late that day, so I told my husband I'd be home late. But work went faster than expected, and we finished on time. I hurried home, planning to cook dinner for my husband. When I got home, I saw my in-laws' shoes at the door and realized they were visiting. As I walked towards the living room, I overheard a conversation between my husband and his parents. They were talking about me. You made the right choice marrying her, didn't you, Jessie? You did great. I can't believe you found a woman with so much money, his parents said. My husband replied, when I found out she worked for a big company, I was careful and made sure to win her over. You should be more grateful. Then they started talking about the debt. You're one of the reasons we're in debt, someone said. But I'm the one who spent the least, replied my husband. They talked about how much he spent on gambling, especially horse racing. He tried to defend himself, saying, "Sometimes I hit the jackpot, so we were in the black for a while." But his parents quickly pointed out that they still owed $280,000. They seemed relieved that at this pace, they would soon be debt-free and even mentioned how I had paid for the house renovation. My husband said, "I got a really good wife, but I'm going to get rid of her once she pays off the debt," and he and my in-laws laughed. I was so shocked that I couldn't move from the front door for a while. After calming down a bit, I made a loud noise closing the door and said, "I'm home." When I entered the living room, my husband and in-laws greeted me with smiles. "Oh, Lauren, welcome home. Good job today. Well, we're heading back to our room. Let's have dinner together again soon," they said. Their smiles scared me because I had just heard their earlier conversation. My husband, pretending to be a loving partner, also shocked me. I couldn't believe all the effort I'd put into paying off their debt. He asked, "Didn't you say you had to work late today?" I replied, "Yeah, but I finished sooner than expected, so I hurried home to make dinner." I tried my best to stay calm during dinner so my husband wouldn't suspect anything. But later, when he went to take a bath, I went to my room and cried alone. After crying my heart out, I knew I had to do something. I started preparing for a divorce and made plans for my life after it. 5 months later, I pretended to be happy and told my husband that I had paid off my in-laws' debt. He was shocked. "What? You paid off the $280,000 debt? That was supposed to take about 2 years." I explained that I had some savings but was afraid to use it all at once, so I had been paying little by little from my salary. But since we were already below $220,000, I decided to pay it all off at once. I then asked if I could check his bank book, and I showed him mine, proving that $150,000 had been paid all at once. My husband tried to hide his excitement but couldn't completely. "Wow, Lauren, thank you. My parents are going to be so happy," he said, pretending to cry, but I knew it was just an act. Soon after, my in-laws came over and thanked me as well, saying, "Thank you so much. I'm so glad I met Lauren. You're like a god," my husband said. If I didn't know the truth, I might have been happy just to go along with everything, even though I was being deceived. But I already knew what kind of people they really were, so I was ready with my plan. A few days later, my husband asked to talk to me. He looked very serious. "What's going on?" I asked. "I'm sorry, Lauren, but you have to leave," he said. "What do you mean?" I asked, pretending to be surprised. "I have a new girlfriend. I'm going to live here with her, so I'm divorcing you. You're going to stay at my parents' place." I was shocked by his unexpected confession. I knew from overhearing their earlier conversation that my husband planned to leave me after I paid off his debts, but I didn't expect him to openly admit his cheating. And what did he mean by sending me to live with his parents? "I'm not sure I understand," I said. My husband's mood turned sour. "You just don't get it. I don't need you anymore. But if you want to stay as a breadwinner or housekeeper, you can." Just then, the front door opened, and my in-laws walked in. "Jessie, did you finally tell her?" they asked. "Yeah, I told her," he replied. They laughed and said, "You can stay with us if you do the chores, but of course, we'll charge you rent." I couldn't believe how terrible they were. But I was ready. "Actually, you all need to leave," I said. My in-laws looked shocked. "What are you talking about?" they asked. "Have you forgotten? I paid for the renovation, and the house is in my name. I have the right to decide who stays and who goes." Their faces turned pale as they realized the truth. "I'm sorry, but you can't live here anymore. If we get divorced, you'll be strangers to me, I continued. My in-laws started to grasp the seriousness of the situation, but my husband, trying to fight back, said, "But you paid off our debt. You're the one losing money. If we didn't have debt, we could afford a new place." "That's true," I replied, "but thank you for letting me live in a nice house while you paid off your debts." My in-laws and husband were left speechless. I told them the truth. "I'm sorry, but I didn't actually pay off the remaining $150,000 of the debt." They were shocked. "But the money was missing from your bank book," they exclaimed. I explained, "That was just from a separate account I set up to move money around. The debt is still $150,000. I've been making large payments to keep the collectors at bay, but they'll be coming soon. You're responsible for paying the rest." My husband and in-laws panicked. I then warned Jesse, "You admitted to having an affair, so you'll need to pay alimony. I'll also charge your girlfriend for her part in the affair." He became worried and said, "She only stayed with me because she thought I had a house and money. If I have to pay alimony, she'll leave me." I responded, "That's not my problem. You made your choices." My husband, terrified of losing his mistress, and my in-laws, scared of losing me, begged me not to leave. They were selfish and only cared about themselves. I told them, "I'm done with all of you, no matter what you say. I've already put the house on the market, and through my lawyer, I'll make sure you pay back the $110,000 I covered for your debt." My in-laws were stunned, realizing they were about to lose everything. I filed for divorce and demanded alimony from my husband and his affair partner. I also demanded the $110,000 from my in-laws that I had paid on their behalf. The renovated house sold for about $400,000 because it was in a good location and a family wanted a duplex. After covering the $320,000 I owed for the debt and renovation, I made a profit of $80,000. On top of that, I received alimony from my ex-husband and his affair partner and got the $120,000 from my ex-in-laws. In the end, I came out ahead in this situation. Given the damage I suffered and the way I was treated, I believe this outcome was fair. I had saved up money and learned to invest so that I could pay off the debts as quickly as possible, and it paid off in the end. I had saved up quite a bit of money from the start. I invested a few tens of thousands of dollars, and within a year, my investments grew significantly. Plus, I got a raise, so I was earning a good income. Because of my savings, I was able to take bold steps. In the end, I benefited the most, while my former in-laws ended up back in debt and lost their house. Honestly, I think they deserved it because they tried to deceive me. People like that should face the consequences. This experience has taught me to be more careful about who I trust. Moving forward, I'll continue saving and growing my assets so that I can enjoy a comfortable life in my later years. I also want to make happy memories with people I can truly trust. What did you think of the story?